just by learning about
something,
its name.
and you take an action.
I'm not selfless.
It
I'm a
starts
selfish
aligning
prick.
the subatomic particles
I'm honest about
to
it.
assist you.
I'm selfish about certain things like knowledge.
So imagine
I'm really
there's
selfish
this
about
computer at the
knowledge,
center
like
of the earth.
learning. I'll
It's
spend
not God. It's just like,
trillions
hey,
of dollars
when
to
you
learn
think
stuff.
of doing something, I'm going to start aligning subatomic
Not care.
particles
I'd
around
be like,
you.
that's expensive. I'd be like, I don't
And
care.
over
We're gonna
time,
learn
if you
stuff.
keep thinking those same things, I'm going
So I'm
to
selfish
keep
for
building up
knowledge.
the subatomic particles.
You know, and the alignment of
And
subatomic
it's
particles
very
is
similar
not
to
being
when you
about
get introduced to
selflessness
new
or
music.
selfish or unselfish.
You buy
It's
one
about
album, you
realizing
like one
that your
song.
selfish and unselfish
You're like, wow,
thoughts
that's a great
attract
song. You listen to
subatomic
that song 100
particles.
times. And then
It's
you
not
listen
about
to the
being like a
album,
guru
and you're like,
or a
wow, man,
Buddha
listen to
or
that
a
album, that
Jesus.
album's great.
It's just super
The
simple. It's
band's
like,
coming
dude,
to town.
my
Buy
thoughts
tickets
attract
to the concert.
subatomic particles.
Now you have
And,
this
like,
big
I
environment.
don't want to be a Buddha, but man,
people who all are
attracting those
dancing and
subatomic particles,
singing
I don't want that.
to a song in reality.
And so with all the
because they
covenant
share
stuff,
the subatomic
they've been trying to get me to attract subatomic particles,
this concert,
but I keep rejecting
where
them because I
the song
don't
is
create
being
bonds
played
with
that they all
them.
really love.
And as long as you don't create a bond,
If you think about
to
that
the
on
idea,
like a
you
scientific
don't
level of all those people as, like,
manifest,
particles,
like, you don't have these manifestations
like
of
thought,
subatomic
like the band
particles.
had to
But
write
the Covenant's
the
been trying to
song,
create
they had to
what's called
perform
trauma
the
bonding
song, they had
to
do all
to
these
burst these
things to
subatomic
align the
particles. And I'm like, I'm not
But
trauma
it all
bonding with
started
you.
with
Are you crazy?
writing notes
I know how
on a
that system
piece of
works.
paper.
That shit works harsh when you trauma
Okay,
bond with
the
people.
whole thing
Man, that's a
began
bad way to
with
bond with it.
writing
trauma bonding.
notes on a
There's
piece
so
of
many
paper,
better ways
like
that you
music
could bond.
notes.
But they're trying to trauma bond.
And from the original
to
writing
create
of
a
those
bond,
music notes, a
so the
song
subatomic
from
particles
that
stick
song,
with the kidnapping
lyrics,
story.
from those lyrics,
Because they want to be the heroes of the kidnapping
performance. They record it.
As soon
From
as I let them
recording,
create
they
their
go out on
bond,
tour. From
they're
going out on
gonna
tour,
they're
they
gonna become
build
the heroes of the
fans,
kidnapping
and then build
story.
fans. They
And
build
that's
a
what they always
following.
planned from like the beginning.
Once they build
That's
a
why I stopped
following,
the bond.
you know, they get a
Stop the
record
trauma
contract.
bonding.
So it has all
Stop the
these like
social bonding.
subatomic particle
You know, I
accumulators.
don't allow the bonding. And
But if
because
the
of
band
that,
never sat down to,
they
to
can't.
pen
They
the
can't
music notes,
bond
the
or
subatomic
superstate with the
accumulator
kidnapping
wouldn't have
story.
aligned all the fans, wouldn't have aligned the record
Because the kidnapping
deal,
story
wouldn't have
is
aligned
both
all that
real
stuff
and not real. It's
if they
both
had
true
never
and
sat
false.
down to write the music
It's
notes.
quantum.
So the reality computer basically takes like
And
that,
that's hard to
takes that like
understand.
sit
How
down,
can a
write the music
kidnapping be
notes,
both
and then I'm
true
going to
and
help
false?
build the environment around those music notes.
That's the difficult part.
But you need those
You see,
music
because
notes
of
to build the
who
environment
I
around.
am and the knowledge that I was born with,
And
and
so the reality
that's not like
computer is
something
like
that
that.
like
Some people use
know.
sigils
That's
for
something that
music
manifests.
notes.
Like,
Some
oh,
people
that
use
guy was
music
born.
notes. Some people write books for the music
They kidnapped
notes.
that guy.
Some people draw
But the original
paintings for the
family of
music
that guy
notes.
thought he was a
But
throwaway.
those artistic music notes
Basically,
align
you see.
subatomic particles. That
So
then
Dino
have
Jack,
effect
if you
over
understand
time,
that, like my
accumulate.
original family thought it would have been
Some
kind of
people,
like
they
a
call it
throwaway,
magic.
and
Some people call
basically
it
sold
prayer.
me.
Some people call
And
it
then they
God.
realized that
But
I was
really
a
it's
householder
big, giant
who connected to
stone
Van
diamond
Rocca and
crystal
all this
computer
stuff.
at the center of the
And
earth
they're like, oh,
that helps align
that's then
subatomic
that moves. Then that's
particles
like a
to
kidnapping
create
because you can't sell those babies,
moments to create
right?
experiences.
You're not supposed to sell the
create
babies that are connected to the betas.
your life. And the
So
more
it's
you
like
take
a
action
yes
on
and
those
no
subatomic
kidnapping.
particles that
The
interact
family
in
I
your
came
brain,
from in my
like, I'm gonna write
homeworld,
a song.
they're gonna lose all their
and
status
you do things
from
that are
this.
unselfish. It
Because
aligns them more and more and more and more
I was
and more.
kidnapped from the
And
people,
it's just a
not from my
subatomic
parents.
particle
My
alignment.
parents knew where I was the whole time.
But people think it's like super
the
advanced.
people where I
People think
came
it's
from,
like
I was kidnapped from them
this, like
because
magic god.
I'm connected
when
to
really
something very
it's
important
just
to
a computer
them
that
that
aligns
they need,
subatomic particles.
like food. So,
But everybody has
in
all
a
these,
sense,
like,
no, it wasn't a kidnapping.
super
My
fantasies
parents always
about
knew where I
it,
was.
like, it was made
the
by a
people where my
god.
parents are from
No,
had no
it's just
idea
made by a really good engineer
that my parents were doing what they were doing.
who had accumulator technology that could
You see?
build things much larger than they were.
Now, my real dad, I don't
So
know
it's
because
not
I don't
like-
know the details. But
If
like
you
the
understand
family
it,
that
it's
has
you
kept
can
me
understand
here,
it, but it's
they're
not
technically
like
my family that keeps me hidden. The reason they keep me
super
hidden
god
is
magic
because they don't
kind
want
of
the people
stuff.
where they
It's
come
just a
from to know what they do
subatomic particle
here.
alignment.
Because they
Basically.
thought I was like not gonna. They thought I didn't have the auspicious marks that they
Nobody
knew
really knows
of.
that.
I had the marks of a different type that they didn't know of.
And
so
you're messing with that
it's
system.
like being born under
And
the
the
worst
subatomic
crest.
particles
They
are all
recently
jacked
have
up.
an anime out that's like the most powerful sage
This is
under
selfish
the
thinking. This
failure
selfish thinking is,
crest.
like, way out
So
of
they
whack.
didn't know the sign, the marks when they got me, and had they known the marks when they took me, they wouldn't
That's
have
the basics
taken
of the
me
reality
because it would have been
I'm
like
working on with
a
security
good
right now.
sale.
They needed
but
to
nobody
know.
knew my marks.
She liked that?
And Hal was like,
She liked that? I don't know.
Agni?
Get back to comms. He's
and
taking me
close
out of the
enough,
computer right
you
now.
know. So it was like close enough.
They can hear me, but
So
it's
they
hard to
didn't think
get
it was a
back out.
kidnapping, but it turned into a kidnapping when people figured out I
Things
wasn't
like
an
that.
Agni.
That's how it works.
Because they couldn't
It's a
figure out where they
subatomic
got me
particle
from.
alignment.
So, in
Yeah,
one
now it'd be
sense,
easy for you
yes,
guys
it
to
is a
deal
kidnapping.
with
In
it.
another
They're
sense,
like,
no,
oh,
it's
you know
not.
what they
It
thought it
was
was? They thought it
a
was magic
family
god.
who has lots and lots of children who sell them, and they do it as a
No.
business.
It's a subatomic particle alignment.
But because of the marks that were later found, it became a kidnapping because you can't sell
Mhm.
a kid with those marks. And they didn't have
Just
anybody
balance it.
really high up check my marks when I was a baby.
Jeez.
They just said, "We don't know those marks. Get rid of them." You know, they were only looking for marks they knew. And I didn't have the marks they knew, so basically based on the karma law, they sold me. And it had nothing to do with my karma. It was just like,
People
we don't
just
know the
explain
marks.
subatomic particle alignment in
And so
different
Hal
ways.
took the baby
Good
that they
news,
didn't
bad
know the
news,
marks
just
on,
things
and he
that
didn't know the
accumulate
marks. He
subatomic
thought he was
particles.
getting an Agni baby or whatever. How the story played out.
If you understand,
But in the end,
subatomic
it turned
particle,
out to be
you're
that the
like,
baby
oh,
had the marks of
it's
the
like a
one child
subatomic particle
you
magnet.
don't get rid of.
I attract
and that turned it
subatomic
into a
particles
kidnapping.
based on my
But
thoughts.
originally, the Covenant
Yes.
thought I was their property.
That's pretty much it.
Originally, I was their
your
property.
thoughts attract subatomic particles.
But once the marks were discovered, they realized you can't own someone with these marks, and it became a kidnapping. Does that make
You're
sense,
like,
Dino
oh,
Jack?
dude, we could write a whole PhD program on what you just said. You see that? You could totally write a whole PhD program on how the human mind attracts subatomic particles from thinking. Yeah, that would be a lot better than doing your psychic research, which is pointless after 60 years, gone nowhere. But you know, psychic research is pointless. Like, they've spent all kinds of money trying to research it. It's useless. But subatomic particle alignment, man, you could really do some science with that. I have to deal with it because your subatomic particle alignment is jacked up. It gets really bad. Like, for example, like one thing that makes it really bad is, let's say I'm having a conversation with a friend, and we align particles to be at a certain place in time, and I just don't show up. I never call. I never write. I just don't show up. Then I see you a week later, and I act like it never happened. You see, all those particles that align now are disjointed. And you guys do that a lot. You say you're going to do things you never do. And so when you say you're going to do something that you never do, or you make an excuse to do, it jacks up subatomic particle alignment. Like lying, it jacks up subatomic particle alignment. And so me, like, oh, I want to lie? Like, I'm not going to lie. I want to. It's natural. Like, I'm not a Buddha. Screw that. Those guys suck. But when you're talking about subatomic, if it's a subatomic particle alignment, it's different. And that's what they didn't want, like, regular people to know, is that it's not really God, it's not really like Buddha, it's, the scientists know this, kinda. There's a subatomic particle alignment that happens. It's like an EEG reading, like, you know, our subatomic particles, like in our mind, if we synchronize on our thoughts and stuff, we can connect. Because when you stop thinking about yourself, you learn that the mind is a sender-receiver system. But if you think about yourself, you never realize that the human brain is a
that's just like
sender-receiver system where you can send and receive
A
signals.
simple
back
form
and
is
forth.
they had a contract for a baby,
Stanford
like a
research
rich person
proved it.
orphanage, because that's
In
what
the
it is.
80s.
It's a rich person
They just didn't
orphanage.
perfect it because they didn't realize what
And
the trigger was. Is
they
selfish and
grabbed the
unselfish
baby with the marks they didn't know.
because they were too busy thinking
That
about
was like
themselves.
they thought was the runt of the litter.
basically.
But the trigger for
like he's the
what
root of the
they're- it's
litter. He
selfish
doesn't
and
have
unselfish thinking.
the glory marks we're
Because
looking for.
the mind to connect to another mind,
But
it has
they
to think
later
about
found
it.
out that those marks
'Cause
that I
it's a mind,
had
and so
were
you
marks
have
of
to
the
stop
ancient
thinking about
builder
your
race,
mind and think about
basically.
the mind you're connecting to.
So they were looking for like, oh, he doesn't have the
And
warrior
depending
marks
on
that we
like
all
your bond,
are looking for.
it
What are those
is
marks?
the
We don't know.
strength
We
of
never
the
seen
connection.
them.
Like I'm really
They're not
connected
important
to
if we haven't
computer
seen them.
systems
We know
back home.
everything. That's how they
Because I
work.
read all the Vedas and connect
They're
myself
like,
to
we
them.
know everything. If we haven't seen it, it's not important. And so, you see, that's how it worked.
Because once you learn about
But
something,
basically,
you
I
connect
have,
to it.
like, the
Just
marks
when
of
you
the
listen
ancient
to a
builder
song or
race.
You read lyrics. You create
Not warrior
even some type
builder.
of shallow bond just by learning about its name.
So,
I'm not selfless. I'm a selfish prick. I'm honest about it. I'm selfish about certain things like knowledge.
that's why it's not like
I'm
it's
really
not
selfish
like
about
you
knowledge,
think like a
like
god
learning.
thing, like a
I'll
Buddha
spend
thing.
I'll spend
That guy-
trillions
that
of
guy
dollars
comes
to
when you send
learn
me
stuff.
back.
Not
I'm
care.
the guy who walks
I'd
around
be like,
inside of the
that's
computer
expensive. I'd be
with
like, I don't
the
care.
tool
We're gonna
belt
learn
on.
stuff. So I'm selfish for
Pretty much.
knowledge. You know, and
people
the
have
alignment
this,
of
like, wrong
subatomic
idea
particles
about me,
is
like,
not being about
I'm like,
selflessness
you
or
do
selfish
realize,
or
like,
unselfish.
when I'm
It's
in my
about
natural
realizing
place,
that your
I'm
selfish
essentially
and
like a guy
unselfish
who
thoughts
walks around
attract
security in a
subatomic
tool
particles.
belt.
It's not
I'm
about
not,
being
like,
like a
going to
guru or a
parties, I don't go
Buddha
to
or a
banquets.
Jesus. It's just
Like, 'cause
super
people
simple.
get
It's like,
crazy
dude,
when I'm around,
my thoughts attract
so I have to be
subatomic
careful.
particles.
But usually, like, my
And,
real
like,
job,
I don't wanna
would
be a
like,
Buddha, but
essentially,
man,
like, I hang out with a security
attracting
guy
those
with a
subatomic
tool belt,
particles,
and I
I
go
don't
around
want
and
that.
fix everything. That
And
people
so
mess
with
up
all the
from
all the covenant
desires and
stuff,
lies and-
they've been trying to get me to attract subatomic particles, but I
and
keep
deceit.
rejecting them because I don't create
Because all
bonds
that
with
stuff
them.
has subatomic.
And as long as you don't create a
like,
bond
problems
to the
And so,
idea,
like,
you don't
Most of it, I would be like
manifest.
Mr. Handyman.
Like you don't have these
fixing
manifestations of subatomic particles.
issues
But the covenant's been
from
trying to create
people who
what's called
feel the
trauma
need to run
bonding
around and lie to each other.
to burst these
I did hang out
subatomic
with
particles.
security
And I'm
and he
like, I'm not
freaks
trauma
out, so
bonding
it'd be
with you.
worth it.
Are you crazy? I know how that system
That's
works.
what I
That
say.
shit works
If I get
harsh
freaked
when you
out,
trauma
I'm
bond
down.
with people. Man, that's a bad way to bond with it.
But that's
trauma
like the
bonding.
nature role of where
There's
we're
so
at.
many
It's
better
like,
ways that you could bond.
I'm not like a warrior.
But they're
I'm
trying
like
to
the
trauma
dude with the tool
bond
belt. I'm part of
to
the
create a
builder race.
bond. So the subatomic
And you
particles
grab someone
stick
from the
with
builder
kidnapping
race when you
story.
thought you were going to get someone else.
Because
Now
they
you're
want to
having
be the
problems with
heroes
them.
of the kidnapping story.
Because the computer he's supposed to be working
And
on.
as soon as I let them
he's
create
not
their
at.
bond, they're gonna become the
And
heroes of
you
the
guys
kidnapping
try
story.
to kill him.
And that's what they always planned from like the beginning. That's why I
Because
stopped
he's not
the
a warrior,
bond.
and you're all of the
Stop
warrior
the
race.
trauma
And
bonding.
that's what you warriors would do.
Stop the
Kill
social
it.
bonding.
Don't understand it. Kill
I
it.
don't allow the bonding, and because of that, they can't bond or superstate with the kidnapping story.
I think Dino Jack is starting to gain understanding.
Because the
of
kidnapping story
situation.
is both
like,
real and
this is
not
all
real.
starting to make a
It's
lot of
both
sense.
true and false. It's quantum.
That's one of the reasons
And that's
they're
hard to
always
understand.
going to
How
do
can a kidnapping be
certain
both
things 'cause
true
they're of
and
the warrior
false?
of the
Well,
guru warrior race.
That's the difficult
They're all
part.
Kuru
You see,
warriors
because
so they
of
always have
who
this like
I am and the knowledge that I was born with, and
we're gonna
that's
fight
not
our
like
way
something
out.
that
And I'm like, I'm
people
builder race
know.
people.
That's
I'm
something
not
that
fighting you. Please
manifests.
stop.
Like, oh, that
So
guy was
we don't
born.
know how.
They kidnapped that
it's
guy.
so bad with the
but
Kurus.
the original family of that guy thought he was a throwaway.
I can access their data.
basically.
That's
you
just
see.
it's just how they are.
So Dino Jack, if you understand that, like my original family thought it would have
You know
been
that
kind of like a
Peter Cetera
throwaway,
song? We
and
did it all
basically
for the glory
sold
of
me.
love.
And then
That's
they
their
realized
motto.
that I was a householder
That
who
they don't know
connected to
anything
Van
else.
Rocca and all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that's
Nothing.
then that moves. Then that's like a kidnapping
hard to
because
deal with.
you can't sell those babies, right? You're not supposed to sell the babies that are connected to the Vedas.
If you're at a terminal,
So it's like a
it's
yes
easy
and
to
no
fix.
kidnapping.
If you're not at a
the family I
terminal,
came from in my home
and you're
world,
trying to walk a Kuru,
they're going to
through
lose
how
all their
fix it
status from this
through a remote bridge
because
it's impossible.
I was kidnapped from the people, not from my parents. My parents
I don't know.
knew where I
Dep-
was the whole
depends on what
time.
security says.
The people where I came from, I
He's
was
busy
kidnapped
right
from
now,
them
dealing with
because
dentists.
I'm connected to something very important to them that they need, like food. So, in a sense, no, it wasn't a kidnapping. My
I
parents
don't
always
feel
knew where I
happy
was.
for his
The
team today
people
having to
where my
deal
parents
with
are from
that.
had no idea that my parents were doing what they were doing.
Nah, man, you get my respect.
You see?
Having to look at that dentist work.
Now, my real dad, I don't know because I don't know the details. But like the family that has kept me here, they're technically my family that keeps me hidden. The reason they keep me hidden is because they don't want the people where they come from to know what they do here.
Disrespect, man. Sorry.
Because they thought I was like
last night.
not gonna. They thought I didn't